All right, this is Group One's presentation on individual presentations. Hi, my name is Michael, and I'm going to start us off in our presentation on individual presentations. What do you think is the most important skill in business? I guarantee it's not what you're thinking. If you thought it was presenting skills, you would be correct. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of skills that are very important and contributing to your professional career, but presenting is the most important. Second, maybe skills. Second, maybe people skills. Third, probably conversation skills. But presenting skills are the most important. In the book, Business and Professional Writing, Paul McRae references a quote by Donald Trump. In the reference, Trump is describing a candidate for a job in his multinational company. He says, Frank may know real estate, but he gives a lousy presentation. Frank, the candidate for the job, didn't get the job. The candidate who did get the job gave a good presentation. Just as you need to be able to converse and write well in a business profession, you need to be able to give a good presentation. After all, the goal of presenting is to persuade someone. It was once said, if it's not an argument, it's a boring presentation. And an argument is all about persuading somebody. Your presentation should be too. After all, one of the most important skills in business is the ability to sell. And that's all about persuading somebody. When you're presenting, you're not just selling yourself, but you're also selling your idea. And if you can't get people to buy into your idea, you're a bad businessman. Most people say that the very last thing they would ever want to do in their life would be presenting. People say they would rather die than speak publicly. In other words, they would rather be dead in their coffin at their funeral than speak at their funeral. Now, I know that public speaking is scary, but there are definitely nerves involved. But what if I told you that it didn't have to be scary at all? In fact, public speaking could be enjoyable, as in you would be excited to speak publicly. This can be achieved if you follow three simple principles: preparation, content, and delivery. Now, these principles may seem simple in concept, but they are very difficult in actuality. But trust me, with some practice, you can master them. Proper preparation is key in delivering a good presentation. When unprepared, there are so many things that could go wrong. Have you ever watched a presentation and the speaker stumbles on their words or takes an unbelievably long pause while shuffling through their notes to figure out where they have what they have to say next? You don't want this to be you. In fact, that's the opposite of what you want. You want to be able to naturally, effortlessly give your presentation. You want your presentation to sound like an easy conversation, a persuasive one, but an easy one. If you go to your friend's house, if you go to your friend's house, do you prepare every word you're going to say? Write flashcards or even write an essay? Some of these things might help in preparation for your presentation, but you don't actually need these things. You want your presentation to sound off the cuff, rehearsed but not mechanical. In order to properly prepare for your presentation, you need to, one, know the audience. When will you be speaking? How will the people feel at the time of day? Do you need to bring a lot of energy to wake them up after they just ate? Or should your presentation be long or short? If the chairs your audience are sitting in are uncomfortable, maybe you want your presentation to be short. You should also know your venue. Go there the day before you present and make sure you bring everything you need and have everything set up. If the setup is already done, the only thing you need to worry about is presenting. This makes presenting easy and less stressful. Know your purpose. Is your presentation going to be formal like an academic letter, or is it going to be polished and authoritative for a for a sales presentation? Think about how you want your message to be portrayed. Know your material. If you don't know your material and are well educated on the topic, you won't be able to talk the talk. In other words, your presentation won't sound like a natural conversation, like you are just talking about something you're knowledgeable about. Your audience wants to hear a natural talk because it's easy to listen to. Nobody wants a rigid presentation. Lastly, know your visual aids. Use a clicker. Don't fill your slides with text. Use a list format. And make sure your slides are uniform. Nobody wants to go to a presentation and read a book. Set up your slides so you're the one who is teaching the people, not the slides. Thank you for listening to this portion of the presentation. I hope you learned as much as I did.
Content. Most people are only going to remember about 3 points from any given talk. Three is pretty much the limit for what an average audience member can store in their head while someone is speaking. So before you even start building a slide deck, you have to write down exactly what those 3 points are. You have to ask yourself, what do I want the audience to remember? How do I want them to feel at the end? And what do I want them to actually do? If you don't have those three things figured out, your talk is going to feel aimless. A good speaker identifies those goals and hits them repeatedly until they stay. Next. AIDA format. A talk is basically just an argument. It needs a thesis and a solid position. If you aren't arguing for a specific point of view, it gets boring really fast. To keep people engaged, you can use the AIDA format. Start by getting their attention with a story or a serious problem. Then you build interest by bringing in the data and the facts. This is where you use things like expert opinions to make your case. After that, you create desire by showing the benefits of what you're proposing and answering any reasons why people might disagree. Finally, you end with action. You want to leave them with a clear plan, like signing a petition or just changing a habit. Next. Next. Sorry. Delivery and verbal distractions. We all get nervous. Your palms might sweat and your stomach might start to do flips, but the audience usually has no idea. Once you get about 15 seconds in and find a rhythm, the nerves usually fade away. The biggest thing that kills this rhythm is verbal distractions, like ums, uhs, and you knows. There's a crazy example in our text about Caroline Kennedy saying you know over 140 times in one interview. It might have actually cost her a job in the Senate. We usually use those words to buy time while we're thinking, but it feels like forever to you. Sorry. But silence is actually a much better space filler. It feels like forever to you, but the audience actually likes the pause. It gives them a second to catch up. Next. Physical distractions. Your body language is a visual message that people read before you even start talking. The Romans used the word gravitas, which is basically about looking steady, serious, and authoritative. To have that kind of presence, you have to cut out the physical distractions. Don't pace around aimlessly or rock back and forth. And definitely don't cross your arms. It's like putting up a fence between you and the audience. You also don't want to hide your hands in your pockets because it makes it look like you're hiding something. Instead, face everyone squarely with your hands out in the open. Even the way you dress matters. It's all part of the message of being reliable. When you're finishing up, signal the end clearly by saying "in conclusion" and summarize your main points one last time. For the Q&A, a good move is to repeat the question for the room. It buys you time to think and ensures everyone heard it. If you don't have an answer, just be honest and offer to look it up, and don't try to be fake. Next.
So eye contact. Eye contact implies that you are as interested in your audience as you are in your presentation. So it lets you engage with your audience and also them with you, and it can assess their reactions and interests, thus allowing you to make adjustments to your presentation. You should make as much eye contact as possible, at least 90%, but 100% if possible. The best speakers do not use notes. They stand up and speak as if they're talking to their friends. Speakers should never let their gaze rest on one person, but rather constantly scan the audience and make brief periods of eye contact with an individual and then move on to the next person. Next slide. Don't rush. So A slow and steady pace gives you time to think about what you're going to say next. And it gives your audience time to keep up with your ideas. Slow and steady is how we speak naturally. A natural style of speaking is unhurried. The speaker has all the time in the world. They're not in a rush, and they're fascinated by the material that they're giving, that they're speaking on, and they wish they could speak longer. A slow and steady pace conveys an aura of authority and lets you know that you're interested in the topic. Next topic. Vary your tone in projecting your voice. So when we speak in a normal conversation, we naturally vary our tone. For example, if the topic is exciting or if we're angry, our voice rises. If we're nervous, we tend to stutter or maybe not know what to say. So we speak at a natural pace, not too fast. You don't memorize your talk or read from notes. You are enthusiastic about your topic. Enthusiasm can make the talk seem fascinating. All great speakers have a sense of showmanship, so they're putting on a show for their audience and making it interesting. Finally, make sure everyone can hear you, especially if you're in a large auditorium or the acoustics are poor. Next slide. So you want to have fun with your topic. If you enjoy speaking, your audience will enjoy hearing it as well. Smile from time to time. Start with a joke or a good story. Be the life of the party when you speak, basically. Next slide. You may want to pause this video if you'd like to check out the checklist that has an individual presentation on it. And it has everything that you should have in your presentation and everything that you need to know when you're doing an individual presentation. Next slide. I think that's it, but thank you for joining us for individual presentations.